where we give you a very expensive take for a cheap price here.
Jose's getting warmed up.
Zay's getting warmed up. He looked like he's ready to go. So, Zay, I'm going to pass over the mic to you. You give a take and let me know what's on your mind.
My take is a baseball take. It's MLB. Zach is going to love this one because it is so far-fetched. It is going to be crazy. The 2024 New York Mets will be going to the World Series. Oh. It is beyond belief. And I understand the Mets since June has been one of the hottest teams in baseball hitting-wise. They're hitting at an absolute crazy mark. Pitching-wise, starting pitching, they've been fantastic. Quintana's been pitching extremely well. Sevy, Manaya, Christian Scott is getting it together in terms of pitching. We gonna get Senga back soon, shortly, hopefully within the next month. And as the reason why I say that, not only what's going on this season, but what has transpired. When's the last time the Mets went 49-45 midway through the season? 2015. What did the Mets go to in 2015? The World Series. The Mets are hitting at such a hot mark. They're winning games just based on how hot their bats are. Not being on what's going on between the innings 1 through 5, but what's happening in innings 6, 7, 8, and 9. Our clutch hitting has been amongst the best. If we improve that bullpen during this trade deadline, which I believe they will, if their starters like Kodai Senga comes back and everyone's allowed to just take the pressure off, and Kodai Senga comes back as the ace that he's supposed to be, it creates a 6-pitch rotation that allows the Mets to win most series throughout the remaining of the schedule. Now, I believe the Mets are ranked, 10 or 11th in strength of schedule remaining of this season, which allows them to get the top rank in the wild card if everything goes their way, of course. But the Mets are hitting at such an incredible feat that we haven't seen it in quite some time. We got batters 1 through 9 hitting extremely well. We got guys like Jose Iglesias hitting clutch. Yeah, I believe he's hitting over 400 with runners in scoring position. Mark Vientos hitting extremely well. And I'm banking on guys like Francisco Alvarez and Pete Alonso to pick it up in that second half of the season and really show out and show what the New York Mets are all about. Now, is it a hot take? Absolutely. I'm a diehard Mets fan. I haven't seen them in the World Series. I haven't seen a live Mets playoff game in a very long time. So the fact that I'm even talking this highly of them means something to me, and I guarantee whoever see this will mean something to them as well. So give me the New York Mets going to the World Series in 2024.
Yes, no doubt. That's a bold take. I will say this. At a minimum, my expectation, the Mets have to get to the playoffs. After the way they just started, it wasn't a great start, but really since that Jorge Lopez incident, right, when he threw his glove into the stands and he called himself the worst teammate in the MLB, Lindor, I believe it was, called a team meeting. A couple days later, JD Martinez hits a huge walk-off home run against the Marlins, and it really seems like the season has shifted from there. Look, the offense has been unreal, no doubt. I never thought it'd be possible. Francisco Lindor is actually living up to his contract, something that I didn't think was possible when he first got here. Brandon Nimmo, I don't know how he wasn't an all-star. He's been hitting out of his mind lately. Alvarez, the impact he has made on this team has just been unreal. It's clear that when he plays, most of the time the Mets win. Pete Alonso hasn't been great. I think that contract year could be getting to him. He's going to need a big second half. Jose Iglesias, in addition to getting big hits, he's performing concerts, singing bangers on the side. That's been an unreal story. Grimace, the impact that he's made has been an unreal story. Mark Vientos, you mentioned, Zay. I've been so impressed by him. Really, he's taken that third base job and ran with it. But the number one concern, bro, you said it, it's the bullpen. Like, we need arms. This bullpen is not major league caliber right now. Now, the loss of Brooks Raley really hurt. I think he was one of the more underrated lefties in all of baseball, getting hitters out consistently. But besides Edwin Diaz, who has had his questions this season, there just aren't really a lot of reliable arms in that bullpen right now. I think David Stearns will need to address that at the trade deadline, but I just think it can't be forgotten. Like, Zay, it wasn't that long ago, people were asking themselves and saying, what is the difference between the Wilpon Mets and the Steve Cohen Mets? Well, the answer is Steve Cohen actually hired a real GM in David Stearns. And I remember the last time Stearns came up on this show, our guy Kenny said, since when does the former commissioner of the NBA, I thought he was dead. When did he start taking over as the Mets GM? But this guy knows what he's doing. He's created that pitching lab. Guys like Dedaniel Nunez, he's been a no-name bullpen arm that's come out of nowhere. He's made a big impact. That pitching lab has turned around Severino. It's turned around Manaya. Quintana's been very good lately. World Series is a little bold, man. Like a playoff series against the Phillies, I don't know. A playoff series against the Dodgers, I don't know. But I think the Mets could catch the Braves. I think that could be a realistic goal. Finish in second place in the NL East and go from there. But there's no doubt The team has been playing great baseball over the course of the last month or two, and I'm excited for the second half of the season.
All right, fellas. I think it was a good segue because we talked about the Knicks and obviously the Mets, so New York state of mind. I respect it. Now, I would like to go with my take, and I'm going to try to make this take as good as it is in my mind. I am calling for the abolishment of the franchise tag in the NFL. Okay? And just for context, the franchise tag only exists in the NFL. It doesn't in the NBA, the NHL, or the MLB, right? And what is the franchise tag for somebody that's watching the show for the first time, don't know what it is? I got you. I don't know why you're watching the show, but okay, I salute, okay. The franchise tag, okay, allows a team to strategically retain a player on a guaranteed deal with a non-negotiated salary. It can only be used on players set to become free agents. Now, the reason why this topic even came to my head is because we got a bombshell report that dropped earlier that Caleb Williams, and the reason for his holdup in signing the contract is that he asked for a no franchise tag in his rookie contract. Okay, and the Bears have declined that, which you would expect, because why would a team give up their control, right? And they leverage. Okay, now it is smart business from Caleb to try to negotiate that out of the contract. Obviously, he is the NIL star of the modern day, right? The modern day NIL star, and he's trying to set a precedent. But I would say to Caleb Williams, that's not going to happen. The NFLPA is going to have to do the dirty work, and they're going to have to negotiate the removal of the tag in the next CBA, which is in 2031. Okay? Now, I understand what a lot of people are going to say. Well, the NFL is balanced right now. What if you remove it? It's not going to be as balanced. I would say to that, the NFL would never be like the NBA and how the NBA got. Okay? Where players just out here moving and doing. No, it would never be that way. First of all, the NBA is 5 players on the court. The NFL has 11 players on the field. It's too much impact from other areas other than one player. Okay? And by that, it's a quarterback-driven league anyway. Okay? That's number one. So I'm not worried about parity. When you talk about T. Higgins, imagine if the franchise tag didn't exist. He would be a free agent. He would have signed somewhere, and we would have been talking about it on this show. It would have created content to talk about this summer. Oh, T. Higgins signed with so-and-so. Okay, it's good for the league, right? Now, another point that I want to make is we talked about the 49ers, and after the 50 option, they have a franchise tag that if they want to keep Ayuk in town, tag, you're going to be remaining on this team and unhappy, right? And they have that leverage. So, folks, it took me to learn the hard way when we talked about Lamar Jackson and that situation over there. It took that situation for me to even look at the franchise tag in a type of way. And what I'm saying is that we need to make changes. Last week on my show, I said that the NFLPA, the CBA saved the NBA. This year, the NFLPA must save the day and abolish the franchise tag by negotiating it out of the next collective bargaining agreement in 2031. And that's my take for 99.
Yeah, well, you bring up an interesting point, which had me thinking, like, I just looked it up. The first year of the franchise tag was in 1993, and maybe things were just different back then, but I wonder, like, why would the players agree to put it in the first place? Did they just think that, oh, if I get tagged, that's a guarantee, even if it's only for 1 year, I could get the average amount of money of the top 5 highest paid players at my position. And even though that was only a 1 year thing, that is a lot of money. And for certain individuals, that could be something that could be appealing. But I do think the amount of money that's flowing towards the NFL, it's a lot. And I think you brought up some valid points. It's unfortunate for the players that we're going to have to wait until 2031. Like, that's 7 years. That's a while. And it's definitely a source of controversy. Saquon Barkley's a player that comes to mind. He was tagged a few times. Joe Shane kind of let it be known, like, we're not going through that again. I don't think it's really I don't really think the players and the teams enjoy the process. Like, it could be awkward at times knowing that, okay, you're stuck here even though you might not want to be, and you have no other choice, and we have all the control. So I wonder if the players would do that. It's just unfortunate that we have to wait 7 years to get an answer,
Yeah, I think it's like, let me find out what my market is. Don't dictate my market with the tag. Let me find out what my market is. Okay, and if my market is not as high as I want it to be, then I'll probably sign back with you. Let me figure out what my market is and let me see for myself. And that's what I think these players should have the opportunity to do. One more point, before Zay, if you have any words, by all means, is I think the alternative is, in those negotiations, if the NFL was giving the players some pushback on that, that's where you have to get uncomfortable and take action. Maybe have a holdout, which I understand is bad for us because we love football here on the show. But if that's what it takes to get that out of there, you have to fight for what you want in this life. And if they want the best or what's best for the players, they will do so. If they don't, then hey, we will have another Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, so many more examples, right? Saquon, whatever. Lamar is going to be conversation every single year. So they got to make the move for themselves. Otherwise, they're going to be here forever, and we'll have these conversations as they go.
I lost my train of thought. My bad. Listen, I think it's interesting when we talk just anything. It's interesting when we talk about Saquon, right? Because I can't stand this damn Hard Knocks. Like that's I think what my point is coming across. It's showing how inept the organization is within, right? You have half the guys saying bring him back. I mean, you have one guy, really two guys saying bring him back. The other guy saying his value's not that high. He's not going to play up to the value X, Y, Z. And now we're in this predicament where it's like what are we saying here? Like, what is this front office doing? And it's just so weird seeing so much like dysfunction live and in front of us, right? Even we got people like Brian Dable saying, "Yeah, I'll go and draft Jalen Daniels," like right away. And it's just like, bro, like what are we doing here? Like it's just so much like ineptitude being shown to us live on Hard Knocks, and it just makes the organization look even worse than what I already thought it was. Right? At first, I just thought people were just dumb or completely, but now it just feeling like, oh no, you're just self-sabotaging the organization. You're not stupid. You're just doing stupid things to make sure you get fired. I'm just like, this is craziness. Looking at this from like this as a perspective, as I'm a fan watching this stupidness happen.
Yeah, I don't know what that has to do with the tag, but
Saquon just got tagged a few times. I think.
Yeah, he did. He got his money with the Eagles, but Zach, I don't have a tag at my job. Okay, I can't get tagged if I wanted to leave. You don't got a tag at your job. Zay, I'm pretty sure you don't either. I think I gotta go, but that's just me. Zach, the mic is yours.
All right, I will stay in the NFL with my take for 99. And we know that one of the biggest questions entering the season, I should say, during the offseason, is which team in the AFC is the biggest threat to Kansas City to try to prevent them from making history and becoming the first team ever to win 3 straight Super Bowls. And if you guys missed this, Lil and I actually addressed this question maybe a month or two ago on this show. I thought it was a great segment. And there are 2 teams that when people are answering this question, they come to mind for a lot of people. And these 2 teams actually played in the playoffs last year. They are the Ravens and the Texans. These are 2 teams a lot of people are high on entering this season in terms of possible teams that could try to challenge Kansas City. And they made some big moves, both of them, to try to close that gap. We know that the Ravens brought in Derrick Henry from the Titans, and the Texans brought in Stefon Diggs from the Bills. And I was thinking about it. I was bored over the weekend, just getting ready for the season, looking over some of these moves made the offseason. And the more I thought about it, I had a take that came to mind. And that's the fact that I really don't think that either of these 2 moves made a ton of sense for either team. As a matter of fact, I think that the 2 teams would have been better off switching places, and it would have been better off for each player to go to the team the other one went to. And I'll explain what I mean. I don't think, and I don't really understand why Baltimore felt the need to bring in Derrick Henry. Their running game has always been their biggest strength. Gus Edwards was really good for them last season, and you could even make a case that the reason why they lost that game in the AFC title to the Chiefs was because Todd Monken just refused to give Gus Edwards the ball. They didn't run the ball. And I like the Ravens offense, but let's face it, their biggest need right now is wide receiver. I like Zay Flowers, but do we think he's good enough to be a number 1 wide receiver on a Super Bowl team? I don't. And their number 2 is Rashad Bateman, who's very unproven. They just have to pray that Mark Andrews stays healthy, but I don't really think that's a guarantee right now. So I would have rather Baltimore address the wide receiver position than the running back position. And then you look at Houston. I think CJ Stroud showed last season that he was blessed with an ability and a gift that very few quarterbacks have. And that's no matter which weapons you put around him, he's going to be able to make them better. Did anyone talk about Nico Collins possibly being one of the biggest breakout stars of the season last year before CJ Stroud got there? No, but he did become one of the biggest breakout stars of last season because CJ Stroud was able to make him better. I think the same thing could be said for Tank Dell. Tank Dell was a 3rd-round pick, but became a breakout star as a rookie in large part because of CJ Stroud. I don't understand why the Texans felt like they had to take such a big risk on a guy like Diggs, who just didn't produce in Buffalo in the second half of last year. And let's face it, when you bring him into your locker room, especially when it's unknown just how much production he's going to get, that's a huge risk for a team like Houston to take. I also don't think Joe Mixon, their other big offseason addition, I don't think he has a ton of juice left. I just think he's an older running back that was pretty unimpressive last season. If Houston wanted to upgrade from Devin Singletary, who was actually pretty good for them last year, I would have just signed Derrick Henry. I know he always killed the Texans, but that's a guy you should have brought in. So that's my take for 99. I don't love the new fits for either Derrick Henry in Baltimore and Stefon Diggs in Houston, and I just think they would have been better off going to the other place. I think Stefon Diggs would have made a lot more sense for Baltimore, and I think Henry would have made a lot more sense for Houston.
Zay, you want to go first with that?
Honestly, I agree, but I think when you have an opportunity to get Stefon Diggs for as cheap as the Texans got him, why not? This guy's a top receiver in this league. He's extremely well, and you pair him with one of the more dynamic arms in this league.
Let me ask you, Zay, is he better than Nico Collins? I don't think so. Is he better than Tank? Yeah. Is he better than Tank Dell? I don't think so. I think he's their 3rd wide receiver.
Track record, I think Stefon Diggs is better.
No, but right now, like the guy you saw in Buffalo that couldn't catch anything against the Chiefs, is that guy better than Nico Collins or Tank Dell right now? I don't think so.
That's what I'm saying. You're basing a bad year with 2 guys who just had surgeries. I'm pretty sure Nico Collins and Tank Dell just had pretty bad injuries coming into this season, and they're recovering. So we're banking on the best versions we saw Tank Dell and Nico Collins coming in, basically recovering from injury and expecting them to be exactly the same as is. I'm not too sure. I'm not too confident in that just yet. I think you bring in Stefon Diggs that allows less of a workload to Tank Dell and Nico Collins, so they could face lesser coverage. So then now Stefon Diggs is in that fold. It allows them to at least work themselves in, opposed to having to be 100% right away. Now, do I think they're better? Do I think that Stefon Diggs is better than Tank Dell and Nico Collins? I think it's a toss-up. I think his track record-wise, Stefon Diggs, yes, is better. Over last year, it's a toss-up, not 100% comfortable saying yes. But thank God you have all 3 of them, opposed to having to choose which one you believe is better, Stefon Diggs or Nico Collins or Tank Dell. That's why you have that option where now you have all 3 of them, and you have a Joe Mixon who's could definitely get open and get creative in that backfield. So I think Stefon Diggs just relieves the amount of pressure that Tank Dell and Nico Collins had last year with a lot of the deep passes that they had, because we don't know what the speed looks like for Tank Dell this year. We don't know what Nico Collins will look like this year, but we do know Stefon Diggs, a guy who's been healthy, relatively healthy, every single season, is going to do and what he can do for an offense on any team. So I think that's why you bring in Stefon Diggs, because in my opinion, he's still a top 10 receiver in this league, and he's going to perform like one on Houston.
Yeah, I would like to respond to that. Now, I understand where Zach is going with this take, and I understand the creativity about it. I'm just looking at where you can modify your weaknesses at instead of modifying your strengths. But I think when you talk about Stefon Diggs, let me make one thing clear. He is a better wide receiver than both Nico Collins and Tank Dell, in my honest opinion. Now, Tank Dell, his future may be brighter, obviously, because of age and where he's about to be, which is entering his prime, and where Diggs is about to be, leaving his prime. Today, I will prefer Stefon Diggs as a number 1 as far as ability. Now, you could say, who would I rather build around? It would probably be Tank Dell, because he's younger and he doesn't give me no headache. Right? He's not out here fretting when he don't get the ball. So, yeah, I would prefer Tank Dell in that situation. But as far as skill set, right now, I'll take Stefon Diggs. But I think for me, I still think both of those situations are great situations. We have to remember that Nico Collins had a couple days where he went crazy, and he had a couple weeks where he was not going crazy. I know because I play fantasy, right? Diggs, his situation, we look at his lack of production in the second half of the season, but what we fail to realize is two things. One, he wasn't involved in the game plan, because when Joe Brady took over the play calling, he phased him out of the game plan. He wanted Josh Allen to be more safer. They ran the football more in the second half of the season, right? They made a prioritized move of getting cooking. So they kind of phased him out. Number two, he still made an impact as a decoy. We forget about that particular thing. It's not only about what you can do as far as having a 100-yard game and having touchdowns. It's about allowing other wide receivers to eat. And Diggs did that, so I think he would do that here as well. I just think that the Texans are a passing team, right? That's their identity. They're going to pass the football, and they got another guy that's going to help them expand that. I think the Ravens, their identity is running the football, and they're going to live by that. They signed Odell Beckham Jr. Couple seasons ago. They paid him a lot of money. He did not produce. Lamar Jackson, we just got to be real here. He is not a guy who's going to throw the football 30 times a game. And if you were to trade for a guy like Diggs to a place that's known to not have wide receivers happy, and he's already unhappy, you do not want to make that move at all, because as soon as he don't get the ball, he's going to be pulling off his Antonio Brown, taking his shirt off. I'm out. I'm on a turnpike. Adios, amigos. We don't want that. So I think they made the right move by getting Derrick Henry. Even though it's expanding on the strength, Derrick Henry is still a better player than Gus Edwards. I still think he has a lot of juice left. His offensive line was bad. He don't got to worry about that. Lamar Jackson, you defended that RPO game. Good luck trying to figure out who got the football. Is it Derrick Henry? Is it Lamar? That's going to keep me up at night. So I'm pretty sure it will the defensive coordinators as well. So I still think those two teams are in prime positions to compete with Kansas City. Now, whether Lamar Jackson delivers in the playoffs, whether they kind of get antsy, because Zach, that's what happened last year. Last year, it was a play calling malpractice, along with Lamar Jackson not showing up. But what happened was they saw Kansas City go on that drive. I think they got the ball first, and they went down and scored 7-0. They panicked. Oh, my God. We down 7-0. We got to pass the football. No, they should have ran the football. And they just got out of their character and out of their element. So that's what happened. But I don't disagree with bringing in a guy like Derrick Henry to pair him with Lamar Jackson. And I don't disagree with the move to take a flyer on a guy like Stefon Diggs to expand your passing game with your second-year quarterback in C.J. Stroud.
I just think, the Ravens' weapons around Jackson, I don't know if they're good enough. Like, I like Mark Andrews, but if he's really your number one weapon in the passing game, I think that could be an issue. I don't know if you have enough depth there. And with Houston, like, Stroud, like, Nico Collins, I think we're forgetting just how good this guy was. I think he's going to be their number one wide receiver. I mean, they just paid him as one of the top 10 wide receivers in the entire NFL. I know Tank Dell is coming back from, some tough off-the-field stuff, but he was unreal
Zach,
last year.
Who was the Ravens' number one wide receiver last year when they made the AFC Championship game?
It was Zay Flowers, and their season ended in disappointing fashion.
Yeah, he had that fumble out of bounds. That if he just protects the football and scores, then that game is looking a little bit different.
But do you think that's good enough?
Nah, I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's good enough. I don't. I think they should add another wide receiver. But what I'm saying is Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson, and they should be still right back in that thick of things. It's just going to come down to play calling and Lamar Jackson showing up when he needs to.
Yeah, I just don't understand, like, when you already had a solid running back in Gus Edwards, I would have improved the receiver position. And that Diggs concern you brought up about, him going to a place in Baltimore, he could complain because that's a place where Hollywood Brown and other guys have complained about not getting the ball enough. I mean, yeah, but you're clearly the number one target there. Again, I think in Houston, Diggs is the number 3. I think Collins and Dell are both ahead of him at this point, and Houston doesn't even need him because C.J. Stroud is so good that you could put like an average wide receiver and C.J. Stroud could make him great. That's the gift he has. I don't understand taking the risk on a guy like Diggs. That might actually happen. He could be the number 3 option. He could not get the ball enough, and he just bugs out. That's why Houston didn't commit to him long term. He's only on a 1-year deal, and I also don't love Joe Mixon. Like, I think that's a downgrade from Devin Singletary. I think it would have made a lot more sense for Houston to improve the running back position and bring in Henry opposed to Baltimore expanding on a strength and bringing in Henry themselves. So that's just a take I have. I don't really think either of these two moves close the gap in terms of biggest threats to Kansas City, and that's why Lil, when we did that segment a couple months ago, I think both of us did. Yeah, we labeled the Bengals as Kansas City's #1 threat in the AFC, and I stand by that.
Yeah, I mean, in closing, I like Joe Mixon. I don't think he's the same guy he was before, but I think as a guy that come playoff time, he can give you some grounded out yards and make an impact in the playoffs. And I think the Texans are thinking about playoffs more so than the regular season. Now, obviously, they got competition in the division. AR-15 is coming. Clearly, Zach, you think he's here. Trevor Lawrence is coming. I hope so. They got competition, so we'll see. All right, fellas, that concludes another episode of 99 Pod. And fellas, I hope y'all had a good one. I sure did, and I'm looking forward to the next one. And ladies and gentlemen, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. It's very imperative as we are pushing out this content on a consistent, regular basis. Fellas, I'll see you on the other side. Peace out.
Sure, always a great time, guys.